The latest GameInformer has been released digitally, and if you haven't read it yet, make sure to pick it up to read the full contents of what GameInformer had to offer, especially because this one is definitely worth the read, and the visuals are pretty great also. Today we'll be counting down 7 interesting things that we found in the Dragon Ball FighterZ featurette, so grab yourself a seat and sit back. Number 1. Dragon Ball FighterZ was originally a code name. Bandai Namco had plans to change the title Dragon Ball FighterZ, which was originally a code name to something snappier. Some ideas were brought up, such as Dragon Ball Rising, and there were even suggestions to add Butoden to the title, as a tribute to the older Dragon Ball fighting games. The Z in the title also represents the history of the series, as well as being the last letter in the alphabet, making it a sort of end-all title. This bit of information definitely lines up with our interview of Tomoko Hiroki, who told us this. Well, basically for Dragon Ball FighterZ, we put in the Z because Z is the last letter of the alphabet, so we just wanted to reach that last or ultimate point. And as you can probably imagine, the Z has a very strong connection with Dragon Ball in general. As far as the pronunciation, it's pronounced Dragon Ball FighterZ, so just pronounce it like you would with an S. You hear that? So, if you see someone saying Dragon Ball FighterZ, fill them in on the history behind the name and show them the light. Number 2. Tutorials won't be as long-winded as BlazBlue or Guilty Gear. According to GameInformer, Arc System Works' previous games such as BlazBlue and Guilty Gear featured really in-depth tutorials because of how complex both titles are. In Dragon Ball FighterZ though, Bandai Namco hopes to make the tutorials brief and integrate it into the game's story mode. This method of approach makes an awful lot of sense since the game is very easy to get into compared to Arc System Works' other titles, and the auto combos will likely help players get their feet wet in Dragon Ball FighterZ. That is until it's time to actually get good, and then I'm sure the scrubs will be asking for some tutorials, but they'll be out of luck. Number 3. The ins and outs of the replay system and party matches. The replay mode is going to gather the best matches and have them up for others to see. In order for a player's replay to reach the top of the channel, they'll have to have a lot of positive reactions, or Z-stamps. This doubles as a way for new players to watch and learn their techniques, as well as just in general watching exciting matches. In Party Match, players are going to have to be alert for when they're switched in, because they might have to attack with a super or finish up a combo. Be careful though, because if your friend is playing as Gohan and you're playing as Piccolo,
well, you might have to jump in front of some beams because Gohan can't dodge.
Arc System Works director Genya Motomura wants to add an interface with simple commands so that players can communicate with each other during battle. If a player drops out in a party match, then the matches end there. Hopefully there aren't too many salty players on either side, and we're hoping that there's going to be hefty penalties for leaving online matches, especially party matches, since when you leave, you're ruining everyone else's fun. Number 4. The game originally allowed you to fly freely. GameInformer mentioned that flying was included in an earlier build of FighterZ, but was ultimately removed because it made the game less dynamic and players would end up in the air for a long period of time. It seems like making a freeform fighting game system proved to be very difficult in the end. Arc System Works also decided against clashing because it ends up being a contest of mashing buttons, which not everyone is great at. We asked the same question at EVO and got this answer from Motomura. Beam struggles are one of the things we struggled with the most as far as implementing. It's very hard to make it work, but in the original source content, it's not so much of a matter of technique as it is brute force. So that makes it difficult to implement into the game in a way that feels fair. Button mashing speed isn't technical. It depends on the person. Some people may be great at fighting games, but they aren't great at mashing buttons and they lose, so it's not really a good game mechanic. Fans of YouTuber Maximilian have seen him share footage of clashing in Dragon Ball FighterZ, but that footage actually just shows beams canceling out other beams, which isn't exactly what players want, but it is beautiful to watch. Number 5. How Arc System Works goes about choosing the right characters. When it came to selecting characters for Dragon Ball FighterZ, Bandai Namco and Arc System Works had a difficult time due to the fact that there are so many characters to choose from in the Dragon Ball series. They did have a rule of thumb, however, and that was to not add common characters that would anger or confuse fans. They chose characters that were not only popular, but also allowed them some room to explore some interesting gameplay concepts. Because of this, don't expect certain characters that you might think are a shoo-in, but also expect some characters that you thought you'd never see in a game like this. Launch fans, or fans of Dragon Ball in general, there's still hope for weird characters like Launch, Kid Goku, or even Mercenary Tao. Number 6. New details about the story mode that might hint at different endings. Bandai Namco noticed a mostly positive reception from having original stories in the Xenoverse series, so they decided to take that same concept to Dragon Ball FighterZ. The game's story mode will take place after the events in Dragon Ball Z. Future character announcements will reveal more about the game's story mode, and Bandai Namco urges fans to try to piece all the characters together to figure out what the story might be. While we don't know anything about Android 21, Game Informer did mention that even though characters such as Bulma, Videl, and Chi-Chi were beloved by fans, Android 21, Savage, was made in order to compete with the series' strongest fighters. And I guess that implies that Bulma, Videl, and Chi-Chi aren't playable. If we had to guess based off the information that they actually give us, Android 21 sounds like she's playable. Also, according to Game Informer, the story mode for Dragon Ball FighterZ is going to be even more interactive than Blaze Blue, Persona, and Guilty Gear stories have been. Players are apparently going to be able to change the course of the story to a certain degree. Details on this were scarce though. Number 7. A new secret Dragon Ball system. A new system's been added to Dragon Ball FighterZ that Bandai Namco teases isn't found in any other fighting game. The only hints that Game Informer's been given are small details about the 7 Dragon Ball icons that appear in the game. When a player collects all 7 of the Dragon Balls, something happens, but they didn't say what. Our initial guess was that it could work like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite's use of the Infinity Stones. In Dragon Ball, one of the functions of the Dragon Balls was to revive the dead, which could work similar to the Soul Stone, where a character is revived and gains a small portion of health back. It's also possible that, much like the stones, they could have multiple uses in fighters. Even with this theory, however, it's probably unlikely since Bandai Namco says it's something that's never been added to a fighting game before. I guess we won't know anything about it until the eventual reveal, but make sure you stay tuned to Shonen Games when we cover V-Jump. There might be some information in the V-Jump this month, and we're hoping that there's going to be because we're all dying to know more about this new Dragon Ball system. So those have been 7 key points that we found from the Game Informer article. Really go out there and support Game Informer. This has been a great article. Go buy some Game Informer, go read and see what's going on. We're obviously not sponsored by them or anything, so we're not going to be giving you a link or anything like that. We're not being paid by them. But this was a really great featurette, and it's just great to see Dragon Ball FighterZ getting covered in such a major magazine. If you want to see a video like this in the future, let us know below in the comment section and like the video. Obviously, we don't do too many top 7 videos or top anything videos, so let us know if you liked how this worked in the format and everything. We kind of came up with it on the spot, and you know, we hope it worked out. But for now, I'll see you guys next time we have a video. Peace.